Hi, I'm Chef Lynn, and welcome to the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Today we have a guest I'd like to introduce you to right off the bat. This is Meg Farren. Hi, Meg.
Hi, Lynn.
And Meg has come to help me cook today. I didn't tell Meg too much about what we were planning on doing because I wanted you to get her off-the-cuff reactions to the dish. This is an off-the-cuff show, so that seemed to make sense to me. So Meg, today we're making beer fish. I know that Meg is a really busy mom with lots of little kids, and she needs to have some very quick dishes in her repertoire that are easy to do. I have a little owie on my thumb today, so I'm putting a glove on to cover it up. So now I'm sure you're thinking, beer fish. She's teaching me to make beer fish when I have little kids. Drunken fish. But if you don't want to use the beer in this dish, you don't have to. The beer is just a medium for creating the steam inside the wok that we'll be using today. So if you want to, you can use vegetable stock, or you can use fish stock, you can use chicken stock, or you can even use water in this dish, so not to worry. Okay, as I said, we're going to cook this in a wok because this is a Chinese dish. It comes from the southern part of China in an area where they have a lot of rivers, and it's normally done with a white river fish. So today, let's just take a look at the ingredients. I've chosen a piece of cod here, and I cut it so that it was pretty similarly thick all the way along. The reason for that is so that it will cook evenly. The whole piece of fish will cook evenly. I've got some oil here. Now traditionally, the oil that you'd use in a wok needs to be an oil that can stand up to very high heat. So traditionally, the oil you would use is peanut oil. But if you've got, do you have someone who has an allergy, I think, in the family? No. Okay, but if you do, and you're watching out there, then just use canola oil or corn oil or something like that. But just so you know, traditionally it would be peanut oil because peanut oil can stand really high heat, and we're planning on searing this fish on really high heat. I've got some coarse salt here that I'll sprinkle on the fish, and I've got some Lawry's seasoned pepper to put on the fish also. You can use any kind of pepper that you want to, but I happen to like this because it's a mixed pepper and it looks really pretty. It comes in a, what do you call this, a bottle, jar, whatever. Canister, like that looks like that in the grocery store. I've also got a little bit of soy sauce here in the beer. Now, obviously, if you wanted to make this a very traditional Chinese dish, you would choose a Chinese beer like Qingdao or one of those. But I just went to my refrigerator and I took the beer that had the most flavor. Again, you can use vegetable stock if you want to, and it'll be just fine, or even water. Okay, then I've got a red pepper, some red pepper and some green pepper, and you can see here that I chopped this into julienne. Now, because we're cooking Chinese today, I decided to use the cleavers as you would if you were in China. These are washed peppers. And first, just take off this little sticker. I forget to do that all the time, and find these in my dish. And look, see, like I said, I find them in my dishes all the time because I forget to take them off.
My kids would think they had won something, that they were getting a sticker of approval.
Oh, that's a great idea. It could be like the
like the Cracker Jack box.
Like the Cracker Jack box, right? The prize. Okay, now did you see how I did that? I just sliced off a piece. This is a great way to make julienne and to avoid all the seeds. So I sliced off a piece. Come on, stand up there. Well, I guess it doesn't want to. And then I'm going to just flatten it a little bit, take my sharp cleaver, and use this just like you would use a French knife, cutting very thin strips all the way across the piece of pepper. So you can see in my dish here that that's what I did with the red pepper and the green pepper. And then because I want these to be somewhat bite-sized, I split this in two. One of the great things about a cleaver is you can pick up what you've just cut and move it easily into the dish. Okay, then I've got 5 cherry tomatoes. We're making 1 serving here today, so these amounts are for 1 serving. If you want to make more, just multiply it. Okay, actually I'm going to move this little sticker because we'll end up just dumping this whole thing into the dish. So I've got about 1/2 of a red pepper, a little more here because I showed you, I took another strip to show you how to do the julienne, but 1/2 a red pepper basically, 1/2 a green pepper. If you have a little more or a little less, it doesn't matter at all. And the tomato. I've also got some crushed ginger and some garlic here in this little bowl. And we'll come back in a minute while the fish is cooking and talk about that a little bit more. And then our last ingredient, this is a great dish because it doesn't have very many ingredients. It's very colorful and it's very quick and easy to make. So this is just a little bit of spring onion cut on a diagonal to make the cut pretty because we'll use it for garnish. Okay, so let's get started on our fish. If you want to take the top off the wok, first thing I'm going to do is just turn the heat on as high as I can get it. Okay, and we're going to wait just a second while that heats up.
Lynn, does this have to be done, does this kind of wok have to be used on a gas?
This kind of wok, okay, that's a really good question. No, it doesn't have to be used on a gas burner. You can use it on an electric burner too, but then you wouldn't be able to use the ring underneath it.
Okay.
So it works much better if you have it on a gas burner.
Is there something you would suggest for an electric? Or
Well,
is this
you
okay?
can actually just make it in a frying pan,
Okay.
or you can buy chef pans that have dome tops. So
Oh, yeah,
for
okay.
this particular dish, a chef pan would be better because then you've got the dome for the steaming.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we've got our oil here. I'm just going to put maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil in the bottom of it. I want to make sure that it's hot before we begin, and I can tell by just trying my fish to see if I hear a saute sound. And I do, but I'm going to wait just another minute until it's really hot. Now, a problem that, are you just going to say, I'm worried about it sticking?
No, I was going to ask you a question about cod. Is that the best fish to use because it absorbs the flavor the most, or because it's mild, or obviously with young kids, I don't want to go for a really fishy taste. So.
Okay, right. If your fish is really fresh, you're not going to get that really fishy taste.
Okay.
In this dish, you can use any kind of white fish you wanted to use. You could use halibut. I chose cod today because it looked good in the store.
Okay.
Usually I'll decide at the market. This came from Plum, by the way, one of our great local markets. They had some nice fresh cod, and so that's really why I chose the cod. It's also much, much cheaper than halibut.
Okay.
So
Can you use
that's
tilapia,
another good
or is
reason.
that too thin?
Tilapia is probably too thin for this dish, right? That's a good question, a good comment. You want to have a fish that's a little bit thicker.
Okay.
So whenever you're frying fish, a lot of people worry about the fish sticking in the pan. And one surefire way to keep that from happening is to slide your fish into the pan. Now, and basically what that does then is it coats the bottom of the fish and keeps it up off the pan and keeps it from sticking. Now, I don't mean slide this. This happened in a cooking class 2 days ago. Someone actually misunderstood that and slid it right through the pan, and it went off the counter and straight onto the floor. So I just mean kind of slide it around like that.
Gotcha.
Okay? Now we're going to let that sit there for just a second and until it gets brown on the bottom. You can use for this purpose, the wok is not conducive to flipping like a frying pan with rounded sides would be, so you have to use some kind of a spatula. And this is a fish spatula that's specifically designed for fish. It's wide so that you can pick it up, and it's very, very thin so that you can get under the fish. So what I'm going to do is just lift up the edge of this and see if it's browning, and it's not.
Okay.
So I'll turn that over to you, and you can watch it and just sort of check on the edge.
Okay.
Now I put this fish in with the skin side up, so you can see where the skin was taken off here, and know that that's the skin side.
Okay.
And the reason that I did that is I want to brown the part that's going to be presented to my guest. And so I'll get this looking the way I want it to look, and then flip it over, and then let it finish cooking on the bottom, because I don't care what the bottom looks like. I only care about what they're going to see. So you want to have something that's going to look really appetizing.
Well, and I would have a 4-year-old say, "Mommy, what's that thing there?"
What's that thing there?
I get
Yeah,
that all the
right.
time. Pick it out. Pick it out.
Really?
Take it out. I won't eat that green thing.
Okay. Well, that's a better reason to do it. Okay, now it should be just about ready already. We should have a kind of a nice little brown sear on the bottom.
Yeah, a little bit. Do you want to do
You
more?
want to leave it just a little bit more? Okay. Now, one of the things about fish is, and also chicken for that matter, or meat or anything, when you're frying it or searing it, you can watch how much it's cooking by looking on the side.
Probably could have done a little
Yeah,
bit more.
that could have been a little bit browner. But because it's already cooking and coming apart a little bit like that, we don't want to disturb it. So we're just going to leave it that way. Now to finish this dish, all we have to do is throw everything else in. So this is garlic and ginger, again, that's been crushed. Just going to put that on the top of the fish. And then I'm going to throw all these vegetables on the top. I'm going to throw on my soy sauce. And then I'm going to put in about a half a cup of beer. I'm just guessing here. Of course it would do that. All right, I'll bring this over here like this and put in the beer, and you're just going to throw the top on it really fast, and then we're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. Start. Okay, the purpose of the beer, as I said, is to provide the liquid for the steaming.
Okay.
So you're not really looking for a sauce or a broth, but if you get a little bit too much beer in there, it's okay, because then you'll have a little broth, and that's really not a problem at all. Okay, so while that's cooking, let's go back and talk a little bit about the wok. As you can see, it's set up so that the heat source is at the bottom. And by the way, I left this heat right on high. It's just going to be fuming, boiling away furiously in there. And you want to be careful not to open the top, because this dish is steamed. I mean, normally you think of a wok for stir frying, right?
Yep.
But it can also be used for braising and for boiling and for steaming. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to show you this, so you could see a different use for your wok. The heat source is concentrated at the bottom, and it's a really good idea to have some mitts around, because you might want to grab onto these handles. So unless you have some kind of handle that doesn't conduct heat, you may want to grab this. And one of the wonderful things about the wok is you can change where the heat source hits the pan. That's the purpose, or part of the purpose, of the ring. You can move it around. I don't want to do it because I want my fish to steam evenly, but you can imagine you can move it this way or that way. If, let's say, part of your chicken or fish or whatever you're making is cooked more than the other, you can push it to the heat source and tip it so that what's already cooked is away from the heat.
It's one more. I've been trying to convince my husband, let's get a gas cooktop, and this is another reason.
Yes,
Nick, can I ask you a real quick question about the wok? Is that your wok looks really well loved inside, like a cast iron pan? Do you have to get it ready with oil previously, or is, because it's a non-stick substance or surface?
That's a great question, and it's actually the next thing I was planning on talking about.
Sorry,
so it's almost like a
jumped
planted
ahead.
question.
Okay,
no, that's
sorry.
Great. It's actually really something that's important for you to see.
So good.
It looks like the wok is dirty, but actually it's exactly what you said. When you get a new iron wok, it needs to be prepared just like an iron pan. So in other words, I smeared it with oil and I put it in a very hot oven for about an hour until this started to stick. And actually with this wok, which I ordered from China, I had to do that 3 times in order to get this surface on. And what this surface does is it helps it to be non-stick. And we did turn on our timer right. It helps it to be non-stick, and it also helps to flavor it. And so you don't want to wash that with a lot of soap. You want to just, they say just wipe your wok out and don't use soap at all, but I have a problem with that. So I do use sudsy water when I clean my wok.
I know that with my cast iron pan, I take a little and I just swish it around a little bit, so it satisfies my clean feeling, and yet keeps the kind of surface emollient or whatever.
That's perfect. That's totally perfect.
And I know people can't smell this at home, but what's nice right now is this does not smell like fish. So if somebody was to walk in and say, oh, there's a fishy smell, you can't. It smells great. It smells really good. It doesn't smell fishy.
That's a good point. Great. Okay. All right, and I wanted to show you these other utensils also that come with your wok. This one is a special spatula for stir frying and moving things around. You notice it's got kind of a wide lip here. And this is for taking things out of the wok. Usually you want to leave as much oil behind as possible. So normally you would take whatever you've cooked out with a slotted spoon or with kind of a net spider like this. So we're not going to do that today because we want all of that delicious goodness to come out with it. But normally that's what you would do. And you probably noticed that I was chopping with cleavers. There are different kinds of cleavers actually, and I actually didn't realize this until recently when I made a trip to China. But they're different weights and they have different lengths of blade. But they're set up just like a French knife. So you can see they've got this little curve here, and you can actually chop with them. You saw me do it with the pepper, rocking just like with a French knife. And then, as I said earlier, it's really nice because you've got your surface to lift things and move them without having to stop and pick up a separate tool to do that. So it's just great. Yeah.
Well, they're not too bad. Yeah.
Feel the difference in the weight, though.
Oh yeah, that's considerably.
That has a lot to do with its purpose. There's our timer already, so I can just turn this off for a second until we're finished talking, and then we'll take it out. This one is heavy because it's used for chopping bones.
Okay.
And this one is a knife.
Okay.
You have to think about it as a French knife.
Okay.
So just before we take that out, I wanted to show you what I did with the ginger. This is fresh ginger, and it's a root, and it comes in kind of a big gnarly piece like this. I just cut off a piece of it, peeled it, and then I sliced it. I sliced off little thin pieces. Then what I did is I chopped it just a little bit, and again, this recipe is just a guide. If you love ginger, like you just said, go ahead and use more.
Okay.
So then I want to have a single row, and I crushed it with my hand. And then you can even take the heavier cleaver, or you can use a knife for this, and smack it. Ooh, I should have warned you that was going to be loud. Anyway, you can smack it a couple of times. This is making more noise than it needs to. But hold it down after you smack it, because if you go like this, your ginger can go flying all over the room. And then see what a beautiful crush I got there? We don't want to run into chunks of this in our dish. And I did exactly the same thing with the garlic so that I wouldn't run into chunks during the dish. Okay, so let's just take a second. And the other thing I just wanted to tell you was this is elephant garlic. Garlic doesn't agree with me, so I will often choose the elephant garlic instead of the smaller garlic because it's milder and sweeter.
Okay.
And if you have someone who has issues with garlic, you can also try roasting it.
Okay.
Because that will sweeten it, just like tomato is sweetened by the heat. Garlic is also. Okay. Now, if you could hand me that orange dish, I chose an orange dish to highlight the color of the peppers, and we can open that up now and see what we've got here. Oh wow. I'll use this just to be able to try to grab my fish in one piece, bring it over into my dish. Of course, I lost a little bit there. And then, now I probably could have put less beer in here, or less juice, because I've got quite a bit of broth. You'll have different experiences with this. The broth might totally boil away.
Hold that for you.
Sure, that's great. Or you might end up with a situation like this where I've got quite a lot of broth. And you can do whatever you want with that. If you can put it in the dish and have it be a little bit soupy, or you can leave it out.
You know, serving with rice, like a sticky rice, a Japanese or a sticky rice.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You could put rice underneath this if you want to enhance the dish, or you could serve rice on the side, either one.
Okay.
I would probably serve rice with it if I were serving it for dinner, but for lunch I think this just makes a great,
beautiful.
a great healthy dish with hardly any oil in it that's substantial. Then to finish it off, we'll just put a little bit of the fresh onion on the top.
That's beautiful.
And voila, there's your dish. One last comment.
Fabulous.
We prepared one serving in this wok. You could probably make up to 4.
Okay.
But you'll want to sear each piece separately and push them up on the side so that you get that nice brown color. If you overcrowd any pan or wok, it starts to steam and to turn into a liquid, and so what you end up doing is actually boiling your fish, not searing it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So you could put up to 4, and if you want more than 4, then just cook it in batches. It only takes 5 minutes to cook, and you can see how fast that 5 minutes went. So
It went very quickly, and I'm going to go to the store and buy some little gadgets today. And
okay.
I think I'm making it for dinner.
Great. Yeah. I think everybody in this room will be making it for dinner. It's without all the talking, it's a very, very quick dish. So there you have it, a delicious, healthy, pretty dish that anybody can make. I'm Chef Lynn, and this is the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. If you would like today's recipe, just email chef@flavorsecrets.com and request it. You can also review any episode by going to www.bloomfieldtwp.org. Click on Video on Demand on the right side of the screen, and then click on Flavor Secrets to choose your episode. Enjoy!